Our tip of the week here today is how to edit the graphics of an imported SketchUp model. And I'm going to talk about two different ways. First is using the built-in SketchUp converter. So when you do bring up that SketchUp file into ArchiCAD, as I talked about earlier, where you simply go and you go to import in or merge in a SketchUp file by simply going to File, Interoperability, and Merge. It's going to create an ArchiCAD object at that point. So an ArchiCAD object will automatically be created within your embedded library. And if you click on that, you're going to have the ability to do rotation, scaling, and hotspots. So assuming that this is an object that has a lot of linear surfaces, not any curved surfaces, it should look great. This is, as you can see from this wolf stove, really looks just fine, right? Because we don't have a lot of curved surfaces here. Most of them are linear, so it looks fine. We don't have any triangulation or issues with 2D graphics, etc. So in this case, everything's fine except for the fact that I can't really edit the colors of this oven, or textures or anything on it because it doesn't give me that option. So what you want to do is you want to select that object in Planner 3D, right-click it, and then select Convert Selection to Morph. When you do that, it's going to convert it into morphs, much like we were talking about earlier, like SketchUp style modeling, right? These are independent elements that you can push and pull, that you can edit and manipulate, but also allows you to resave this information so that you can, that's interesting, so that you can, what am I trying to say? Not sure why that's there. Huh, interesting. Okay. Okay, let me go back. Sorry. So so that if you want to be able to edit the materials, the colors, line weights, etc., it will give you more editing options. So I've converted that into a morph. I have selected that morph, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the File menu, Libraries and Objects, Save Selection As, and select it and save it as an object. When I do that, it's going to give me the ability, once I save that, it will then automatically give me parameters for fills, for lines, for surfaces, and for pins. So this allows me then to take that object, which I could not edit previously, and now I can begin to change colors, such as the surface to black and whatever other surfaces. Maybe I want to change these to a glass and the red color for my knobs to something else. But it just, all of a sudden now I have this ability to be able to change the colors, some of my pin weights for my 2D symbol, etc., and have flexibility within that. And that's all assuming that it's a linear object. If it's an object that has a lot of curves, then you're probably going to want to use something like ModelPort to edit that. So let's look at that as an option. Here's a good example. You've got this, again, this bathtub that has all these triangulations because it has all this curved edges for the bath, as well as the legs and the bottom and just all these components, right? So very, very muddy and messy 2D graphic as well as a 3D graphic as well. Now by using, if we were to take that object and just bring it into into ArchiCAD, right, we would have these problems. But what we can do is, or I should say, when we let me back up for a second, is that what we can do is do exactly what we did before using the built-up SketchUp converter, right? So what I would do is, because ModelPort can bring in files natively right directly into ModelPort using things like DAE, FBX, OBJ, and some other formats. It cannot bring in natively a SketchUp file into ModelPort or a Revit file into ModelPort, an IC file into ModelPort. However, what it can do is it can take any kind of objects or elements from ArchiCAD and bring those into ModelPort. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. You can actually take this built-in SketchUp converter, which we'd do in ArchiCAD, right? So we would take that, much like we did before. We're going to take that SketchUp file. We're going to use that internal merge command in ArchiCAD, and then we're going to convert that into a SketchUp object. Once that's converted to a SketchUp object, okay, it is then going to be a SketchUp object within ArchiCAD that I can then manipulate within ModelPort. So I'm going to go ahead and place that into my floor plan. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to convert that to morphs. And I'm going to go OK. Now it's going to look like this, right? So it doesn't have all those lines here, but it's still, a pretty messy object. And so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to keep that selected. I'm going to go to ModelPort. I'm going to go import from ArchiCAD. Because if I kept it like this, it would be a really a difficult object. Go back one step here. Whenever you convert objects that have a lot of curved and a lot of polygons like this, and they become morph, they become really difficult to edit sometimes within ArchiCAD because there's too many morphs to edit. It slows down the performance of ArchiCAD, and so the ModelPort will actually allow you to then edit this object as a whole, and also will maintain and control performance much better. So now that it goes into ModelPort, and I go to ModelPort import from ArchiCAD, it comes in here, and now it's controlling it from within ModelPort. I would then create this object by clicking create, type in a name, and now I have this object within ModelPort. What this now allows me to do is to clean up that 2D graphic, right? So this is what it would have looked like in 2D once I converted it to a morph. Once I bring it into ArchiCAD into ModelPort, it's going to make it, into a much cleaner 2D graphic. But it's also now going to give me the ability to start editing my contours. I can click on the bathtub ring, and I can change that color. I could click on the drain or the knobs, and I can change that color. I can change the fill if I want to put a fill within that drain as well. So it gives me more editing options for that. And it's also going to allow me to edit the 3D. So I can take and begin to click on my bathtub. I can begin to edit that as a different color and change that up. I could click on the bottom part of this if I wanted to have that as a different color and set that as a different color, etc. And once I'm done, I just click update, and it updates that object, and it maintains that object now as an ArchiCAD object that's being that you can edit and is maintain the performance within ModelPort. So that is our tip of the week.